I was sitting at our kitchen table, the warm afternoon sun filtering through the window, casting a golden hue over the room. The smell of freshly brewed coffee lingered in the air, a comforting aroma that usually put me at ease. But today, that comfort was shattered as I glanced at my phone, which buzzed insistently beside me. It was a message notification, and, for reasons I still can't fully comprehend, I picked it up. It was a message from my wife, Monica, but it wasn't meant for me. As I opened the screen, my heart sank. There it was, a photo of Monica wrapped in the arms of Lucas, her literature professor. They were laughing together, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of the cafe lights, completely unaware of the storm brewing in my chest. It felt as though the ground had been pulled from beneath me. I had always trusted Monica implicitly. She was my partner, my confidant, the woman I had shared my life with for the past 5 years. The betrayal cut deep, sharper than any knife. I tried to process what I was seeing. Was this a one-time mistake, or was there something more sinister at play? My mind raced with questions, each one more painful than the last. I remembered the late nights she had spent at the university, the vague explanations about study groups, and the way she had smiled when she spoke about Lucas. It all started to fit together like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, but the picture it formed was one I never wanted to see. As I sat there, the coffee growing cold in my cup, I felt a surge of anger and betrayal. I knew I couldn't just confront her without proof. I needed to catch them in the act. The thought of doing something so drastic sent a thrill of adrenaline through me. I had to devise a plan, a way to expose their deceit without giving myself away. I couldn't afford to be the fool in this situation. I began to think back to the times I had seen Monica and Lucas together. They often met after her classes, sometimes at that little cafe downtown. A cozy spot that had become their unofficial meeting place. I could picture it vividly. The way she would laugh at his jokes, the way her eyes sparkled with excitement. It made my stomach churn. I decided then and there that I would go to that cafe, but I would do it under the guise of working late at the office. The next day, I put my plan into action. I told Monica I had a big project to finish and that I would be late. She kissed me goodbye, oblivious to the turmoil brewing inside me. As soon as she left, I grabbed my jacket and headed out, my heart racing with anticipation and dread. I parked a few blocks away from the cafe to avoid being seen and walked the rest of the way, my mind racing with what I might discover. When I arrived, I took a deep breath and stepped inside. The cafe was bustling with activity, the sound of clinking cups and chatter filling the air. I scanned the room, my heart pounding as I searched for them. And then I saw her, Monica, sitting at a corner table. Her hair cascading over her shoulders, a radiant smile on her face as she leaned in close to Lucas. He was animatedly telling her something, and she was hanging on his every word, laughter spilling from her lips like music. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. The sight of them together was more than I could bear. I slipped into a booth in the far corner, trying to remain inconspicuous. I pulled out my phone and opened the camera app, my hands shaking as I prepared to document this betrayal. I knew I needed evidence, something concrete that I could confront her with later. As I watched them, I felt a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, and an overwhelming sense of betrayal. They were so engrossed in their conversation that they didn't even notice me. I began recording, capturing the moments that would haunt me for a long time to come. I focused on the way Lucas leaned in closer, the way Monica's laughter seemed to fill the room. Each chuckle felt like a dagger to my heart, twisting deeper with every passing second. Suddenly, Monica reached out and touched Lucas's arm, her fingers lingering just a moment too long. It was a simple gesture, but in that instant, I felt as though the world had collapsed around me. I couldn't just sit there and watch this unfold any longer. The anger bubbled to the surface, and I knew I had to confront them. I stood up, my heart racing, and made my way toward their table, each step feeling heavier than the last. "Monica," I said, my voice steady despite the chaos inside me. "Can we talk?" The words hung in the air, and I could feel the eyes of the cafe patrons on us. She looked up, her expression shifting from surprise to confusion, and then to something resembling fear. Lucas's face paled as he realized what was happening. In that moment, I felt a surge of power. I had caught them, and there was no turning back now. The truth was out, and I was ready to face whatever came next. But as I stood there, waiting for her response, I couldn't shake the feeling that this confrontation would change everything. Little did I know just how much it would unravel in the days to come. The atmosphere in the cafe shifted dramatically the moment I confronted Monica. The laughter that had filled the air moments before was replaced by an uncomfortable silence, as if the entire world had paused to witness the unfolding drama. Monica's eyes widened in disbelief, and for a brief moment, I saw a flicker of guilt cross her face. But it was quickly replaced by defiance. Lucas, on the other hand, looked like a deer caught in headlights. His mouth slightly agape as he processed what was happening. "Jeff, I can explain," Monica stammered, her voice trembling slightly. But I wasn't in the mood for explanations. I had seen enough. I had caught her red-handed, and now I needed to take control of the situation. The anger that had been simmering inside me was now boiling over, and I felt a fierce determination to make her understand the gravity of her betrayal. "Explain what, Monica?" I shot back, my voice rising. "Explain how you've been lying to me. How you've been sneaking around behind my back with him." I gestured toward Lucas, who was still sitting there, frozen in shock. I could feel the eyes of the other patrons boring into us, their curiosity palpable. It was humiliating, but at that moment, I didn't care. I was consumed by a need to confront her, to make her feel the weight of her actions. "Jeff, please," she pleaded, her voice softening as she reached out to me. "Let's talk about this somewhere else." But I wasn't ready to back down. I had spent the last few days grappling with my emotions, and now that I had her in front of me, I wasn't going to let her brush this under the rug. "No, we're talking here," I insisted, my resolve hardening. "You owe me that much." I could see the tension in her shoulders as she realized I wasn't going to let this go easily. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "How long has this been going on?" I demanded, my voice low but firm. Monica hesitated, her gaze flickering to Lucas, who was now shifting uncomfortably in his seat. "It's not what you think," she started, but I cut her off. "Not what I think? You're sitting here with him, laughing and flirting like it's nothing. How can you even say that?" My heart raced as I spoke, the adrenaline coursing through my veins. I was furious, but beneath that fury lay a deep sense of betrayal that I couldn't ignore. I had to take control of the situation, not just for myself, but to show her that I wouldn't be a doormat. As I stood there, I began to formulate a plan. I couldn't just confront her and then walk away. I needed to make her understand the consequences of her actions. To show her that she couldn't treat me this way without repercussions. Revenge wasn't just about getting even, it was about reclaiming my power and dignity. I remembered the conversations I'd had with friends about relationships and infidelity. They often spoke of the importance of standing your ground, of not letting someone walk all over you. I had always prided myself on being the kind of guy who could handle anything life threw at me, but this was different. This was personal, and I needed to make sure Monica felt the weight of her betrayal. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, my voice steady as I looked her in the eye. "I'm going to give you a chance to come clean. You can tell me everything, how it started, how long it's been going on, and why you thought it was okay to betray me like this. If you don't, I'll make sure everyone knows what you've been doing." The words hung in the air, a challenge that I hoped would resonate with her. Monica's expression shifted from shock to anger, and I could see the wheels turning in her mind. "You think you can threaten me into confessing?" She shot back, her voice rising. "That's not how this works, Jeff. You don't get to dictate how I feel or what I do." I could feel the tension in the air, a palpable electricity that crackled between us. "I'm not threatening you, Monica. I'm giving you a choice. You can either be honest with me, or you can deal with the fallout of your lies." I leaned in closer, my voice dropping to a whisper. "But know this, I won't be the one who looks like the fool in this situation. You've already done that to yourself." The silence that followed was deafening. Monica's eyes narrowed as she processed my words, and I could see the conflict within her. Part of her wanted to fight back, to defend her actions, but another part seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. I could see her weighing her options, and I hoped that she would choose honesty. Finally, she sighed, her shoulders slumping in defeat. "Fine," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'll tell you everything, but not here." I nodded, feeling a sense of triumph wash over me. I had taken control of the situation, and now I had the upper hand. "Okay," I said, my tone softening slightly. "Let's go somewhere private." We left the cafe, the weight of the confrontation still heavy in the air. As we walked side by side, I couldn't help but feel a mix of anticipation and dread. I was about to uncover the truth, and I wasn't sure how it would affect me. Would I be able to handle what she had to say? Would it change everything I thought I knew about our relationship? We drove in silence, the tension thick between us. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as we approached our home. It was a place filled with memories, laughter, and love, but now it felt like a battleground. I parked the car and we stepped inside, the familiar surroundings suddenly feeling foreign and ominous. "Let's go to the living room," I suggested, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. We settled onto the couch, the air heavy with unspoken words. I could see Monica's hands trembling slightly. And I knew she was struggling with what to say. "Okay," I said, breaking the silence. "Start from the beginning." Monica took a deep breath, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "It started a few months ago," she began, her voice shaking slightly. "I was feeling lost, and I didn't know how to talk to you about it. I felt like we were drifting apart, and then Lucas was there, offering me support and understanding." As she spoke, I felt a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, and a deep sense of betrayal. I had always thought we communicated openly, but clearly, I had missed something crucial. I listened intently, my heart heavy as she recounted the moments that led to her infidelity. "I never meant for it to go this far," she continued, her voice breaking. "But I got caught up in the excitement, the thrill of someone new. I thought it was just harmless flirting at first, but it quickly spiraled out of control." With each word, I felt the walls closing in around me. The reality of her betrayal was sinking in, and I struggled to process the pain. I had trusted her completely, and now that trust lay shattered at my feet. I wanted to scream, to lash out, but I held it together, knowing that this was just the beginning of a long and painful conversation. As she finished her story, I felt a sense of emptiness wash over me. I had wanted the truth, but now that I had it, I wasn't sure how to move forward. The betrayal was raw and fresh, and I knew that this was only the first step in a long journey of healing, if healing was even possible. "Thank you for being honest with me," I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. "But this isn't over. I need time to process everything." Monica nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I understand," she said, her voice filled with remorse. "I'm so sorry, Jeff. I never wanted to hurt you." As I sat there, grappling with the reality of our shattered relationship, I knew that my plan for revenge was just beginning. I needed to reclaim my power, to show her that I wouldn't be the victim in this story. The road ahead would be difficult, but I was determined to find a way to heal, even if it meant taking some drastic measures along the way. The days that followed my confrontation with Monica were a blur of emotions. I felt like I was living in a whirlwind of confusion, anger, and sadness. I had given her the chance to confess, and she had taken it, but the reality of her betrayal still hung over me like a dark cloud. I spent countless hours replaying our conversations in my mind, trying to make sense of everything. It was clear that our relationship had changed irrevocably, and I was left grappling with the question of what to do next. I knew that I couldn't just sit back and let this betrayal go unpunished. It wasn't about revenge for the sake of revenge. It was about reclaiming my dignity and showing Monica that her actions had consequences. I had to make her understand the depth of her betrayal, and I was determined to do it in a way that would leave a lasting impression. As I sat in my home office one evening, the glow of the computer screen illuminating my face, I began to formulate a plan. I remembered how Monica had mentioned that she would be attending a seminar hosted by Lucas. It was the perfect opportunity for me to catch them together again, this time with undeniable proof. I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins as I envisioned the scene unfolding, walking in on them, camera in hand, ready to capture the moment for all to see. I decided to do some reconnaissance first. I needed to know the details of the seminar, the location, the time, and who would be attending. I reached out to a few mutual friends who were also in the same academic circle as Monica and Lucas. I casually asked about the seminar, pretending to be interested in the topic, and soon enough, I had all the information I needed. The seminar was scheduled for next Saturday at a local university, and it was expected to draw a decent crowd of students and faculty alike. With the date circled on my calendar, I began to prepare for the big day. I wanted to ensure that I would be ready for anything. I invested in a high-quality camera with a zoom lens, something that would allow me to capture clear images from a distance. I practiced using it in my backyard, learning how to adjust the settings quickly and how to frame my shots. I wanted to be stealthy, to blend into the background while still being able to document their indiscretions. As the week progressed, I felt a mix of excitement and dread. I was eager to confront Monica again, to show her the evidence of her betrayal, but I was also terrified of what it would mean for our relationship. Would she be remorseful? Would she try to deny it again? I had no idea how she would react, but I knew I had to go through with my plan. On the day of the seminar, I woke up early, my heart racing with anticipation. I dressed carefully, choosing a simple outfit that wouldn't draw attention. I wanted to appear inconspicuous, just another attendee there to listen to the lecture. I arrived at the university campus with plenty of time to spare, the excitement bubbling inside me as I navigated through the crowd of students and faculty members. I found the seminar room and took a seat near the back, my camera discreetly tucked into my bag. As I waited, I scanned the room, looking for Monica and Lucas. The atmosphere was charged with energy as students chatted and professors exchanged pleasantries. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach as I thought about what was about to happen. Finally, the seminar began, and I focused on the speaker, trying to distract myself from the impending confrontation. But my mind kept wandering back to Monica and Lucas. I couldn't shake the image of them together, laughing and sharing secrets. I had to remind myself that this was about more than just jealousy, it was about holding her accountable for her actions. About halfway through the seminar, I spotted Monica entering the room. She looked radiant, her hair cascading over her shoulders, and a bright smile on her face as she scanned the crowd. My heart raced as I watched her, and then I saw Lucas enter right behind her. They exchanged a glance, and I felt a surge of anger wash over me. They looked so comfortable together as if nothing had ever happened between us. I quickly pulled out my camera, adjusting the settings as I prepared to capture the moment. I wanted to document everything, the way they interacted, the laughter they shared, the intimacy that seemed to linger between them. To understand the pain she had caused me. When the seminar finally ended, I felt a rush of adrenaline. I knew this was my moment. I slipped my camera back into my bag and followed them as they made their way out of the room. I kept my distance, allowing them to walk ahead of me as I navigated through the crowd. My heart pounded in my chest as I approached the exit, ready to make my move. As we stepped into the hallway, I could see them talking animatedly, their faces lit up with excitement. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was about to happen. I had to catch them off guard, to confront them before they had a chance to react. "Monica," I called out, my voice echoing through the hallway. She turned, her expression shifting from surprise to confusion as she spotted me. Lucas looked equally stunned, his eyes widening as he realized what was happening. "Jeff, what are you doing here?" Monica asked, her voice laced with a mix of shock and concern. "I came to see the seminar," I replied, my tone steady as I approached them. "But it looks like I stumbled upon something much more interesting." I pulled out my camera, holding it up for them to see. "Care to explain what's going on between you two?" The look on Monica's face was priceless. Her eyes darted between me and Lucas, a mixture of panic and guilt washing over her. Lucas, on the other hand, seemed to regain his composure quickly. "This isn't what it looks like," he said, stepping forward as if to shield Monica from my gaze. "Not what it looks like?" I echoed, incredulous. "You're sitting here flirting with my wife, and you expect me to believe it's innocent?" I could feel the anger rising within me, but I forced myself to remain calm. I had to keep control of the situation. Monica opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off. "No, let me finish. I have proof of your little rendezvous, and I'm not afraid to show it." I turned the camera around, displaying the images I had captured during the seminar. "Look at how cozy you two are. This isn't just a friendly chat, this is betrayal." Monica's face fell as she glanced at the photos, her expression shifting from disbelief to horror. "Jeff, please, let's talk about this," she pleaded, her voice shaking. I shook my head, my resolve hardening. "No more talking. You've had your chance. I want you to understand the consequences of your actions." I stepped closer, my heart racing as I prepared for the fallout. "You need to see how this looks from my perspective." Lucas, sensing the tension, tried to intervene. "Jeff, this isn't helping anyone. Let's just take a step back and stay out of this," I snapped, my gaze fixed on Monica. "This is between me and her." I could feel the anger bubbling beneath the surface, but I fought to keep it in check. I wanted to make my point without losing control. Monica's eyes filled with tears as she looked at me, and for a moment, I felt a pang of sympathy. But I quickly pushed it aside. I had to stay strong, I couldn't let her manipulate my emotions any longer. You need to understand what you've done, Monica. This isn't just about you and Lucas, it's about our marriage, our trust. You've shattered everything we built together. As I spoke, I could see the realization dawning on her face. The weight of her actions was finally sinking in, and I felt a sense of satisfaction knowing that I had forced her to confront the truth. But deep down, I also felt a sense of loss. This was not how I had envisioned our life together, and the pain of her betrayal cut deeper than I had anticipated. I never wanted to hurt you, Monica said, her voice trembling. It was a mistake, Jeff. I was confused, and I didn't know how to talk to you about it. But I love you. I never stopped loving you. Her words hung in the air, and I felt a mix of anger and sadness. Love isn't enough when you betray someone like this, I replied, my voice steady. You need to understand that actions have consequences, and I won't let you walk away from this without facing the truth. As I stood there, the camera still in my hand, I felt a sense of power wash over me. I had taken control of the situation, and I was ready to confront the reality of our shattered relationship. The road ahead would be difficult, but I was determined to hold Monica accountable for her actions. I wanted her to understand the pain she had caused, and I was willing to do whatever it took to make that happen. With that thought in mind, I knew that this was just the beginning of a long and painful journey. I was ready to face whatever came next, even if it meant tearing down the walls of our marriage to rebuild something new. The trap had been set, and now it was time for Monica to face the consequences of her choices. The confrontation in the university hallway felt like a turning point, a moment frozen in time where everything I had feared and anticipated collided. Monica's face was a mixture of shock, guilt, and something else. Was it fear? I could see the realization dawning on her that this was no longer just a private affair. It was now out in the open, and the consequences were about to unfold. I had taken the first step in my plan for revenge, and I was determined to see it through. As we stood there, the tension palpable, I could feel the eyes of other attendees drifting toward us. The whispers began almost immediately, a low hum of curiosity and speculation that filled the air. I had intended for this confrontation to be a private affair, a moment between the three of us, but now it was clear that the walls had ears. I could see a few students taking out their phones, likely recording the drama that was unfolding. Jeff, please, Monica pleaded, her voice trembling. Let's not do this here. We can talk about this in private. But I shook my head, my resolve hardening. No, Monica. You wanted to have your fun in public, and now you'll face the consequences in front of everyone. I gestured around the hallway, where people were beginning to gather, drawn in by the spectacle. You need to see what you've done. And I want everyone to know the truth. Lucas, sensing the escalating situation, stepped forward again. This isn't the way to handle this, Jeff. You're just making it worse. His voice was calm, but I could hear the underlying tension in his tone. Stay out of this, I snapped, my gaze still fixed on Monica. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, a mix of adrenaline and the weight of what I was about to do. You don't get to dictate the terms anymore. You've lost that privilege. Monica's eyes filled with tears, and for a moment, I felt a flicker of doubt. Was I going too far? But then I remembered the betrayal, the lies, and the way she had shattered the trust we had built. I had to see this through. I had to show her that there were repercussions for her actions. Look at what you've done, I continued, my voice rising above the murmurs of the crowd. You've embarrassed me, and you've disrespected our marriage. Do you think this is just a game? You think you can flirt with him and then come home like nothing happened? The crowd was growing, and I could see a few familiar faces among the onlookers, friends, acquaintances, people I had known for years. I felt a mix of shame and empowerment as I laid bare the truth. I was no longer the victim hiding in the shadows, I was taking a stand, and I wanted everyone to witness it. Jeff, please, Monica said again, her voice breaking. I made a mistake. I never meant for it to go this far. Can we just go home and talk about this? Home? I scoffed, incredulous. You think we can just go home and pretend this never happened? You've made your choice, Monica. You chose him over me, and now everyone is going to know. With that, I turned to the crowd, my voice steady as I addressed them directly. This is my wife, Monica. She's been having an affair with her professor, Lucas, right under my nose. I want you all to understand the kind of person she is. This isn't just a mistake, this is a betrayal of the highest order." Gasps rippled through the crowd. And I could see the shock on their faces. Some looked at Monica with pity, while others shot daggers at Lucas, who stood there awkwardly, shifting from foot to foot. I could feel the power of the moment surging through me, and I reveled in it. I was no longer the one left in the dark, I was shining a light on the truth. "Jeff, please stop," Monica begged, her voice barely above a whisper as she reached out to me. "You're embarrassing yourself." "Embarrassing myself?" I shot back, my anger flaring. "You're the one who should be embarrassed. You've betrayed your husband, and now you want to sweep it under the rug? No way." I could see the crowd's interest peaking, their phones still recording, capturing every moment of this public humiliation. I felt a surge of adrenaline as I continued. "I want you all to remember this moment. Remember it the next time you think about trusting someone. Because trust can be broken in an instant, and the people you think you know can turn out to be someone entirely different." As I spoke, I noticed a few people exchanging glances, whispering among themselves. I could feel the weight of their judgment, and it was both exhilarating and terrifying. I had exposed Monica, but I had also exposed myself. I was laying bare my pain and humiliation for the world to see, and I wasn't sure how much longer I could keep it together. "Let's go," Monica said suddenly, her voice firm as she took a step toward me. "We need to talk about this somewhere private." But I wasn't ready to back down. "No, Monica, you don't get to dictate the terms anymore. You've lost that privilege." I gestured toward the crowd, my heart racing. "You wanted this to be public, so let's make it public. Let everyone see what you've done." The tension in the air was thick, and I could see Monica's resolve beginning to crumble. She looked around at the gathering crowd, her face flushed with embarrassment. "I can't believe you're doing this," she said, her voice shaking. "You're making a fool of yourself." "Maybe I am," I replied, my voice steady. "But at least I'm not the one who cheated. You're the one who made this choice, and now you have to live with the consequences." I turned back to the crowd, my heart racing as I prepared to deliver the final blow. This is what happens when trust is broken. This is what happens when someone you love chooses to betray you. Don't let this happen to you. Learn from my mistake. As I spoke, I could see a few people nodding, their expressions shifting from shock to understanding. I felt a sense of power surging through me, a realization that I was taking control of my narrative. I was no longer the victim, I was the one in charge, and I wanted everyone to know it. But just as I was about to continue, I felt a hand on my arm. I turned to see Lucas standing beside me, his expression serious. "Jeff, this isn't the way to handle this," he said, his voice low. "You're only going to hurt yourself more. Don't you dare try to protect me." I shot back, my anger flaring again. "You're the last person I want advice from. You're the one who's been sleeping with my wife." "Enough," Monica interjected, her voice rising above the chaos. "This isn't helping anyone. Jeff, please, let's just go home and talk about this like adults." For a moment, I hesitated. I could see the pain in her eyes, the tears that threatened to spill over. But I couldn't let her manipulate me again. "No, Monica, you've made your choice, and now everyone knows what you've done. You can't just sweep this under the rug." The crowd was still watching, their eyes glued to us, and I could feel the weight of their judgment pressing down on me. It was both liberating and terrifying to be so exposed, but I knew I had to see this through. I had to make sure Monica understood the gravity of her actions. "Let's go," I said finally, my voice steady. "I'm done playing games." I turned and began to walk away, the crowd parting as I made my way through them. I could hear the whispers behind me, the murmurs of shock and disbelief. I had exposed Monica, and now I was ready to face the fallout. As I stepped outside, the cool air hit my face, and I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. I had taken control of the situation, but I knew that this was only the beginning. I had to confront the reality of our shattered marriage, and I was ready to face whatever came next. I glanced back at the entrance, where Monica and Lucas were still standing, their expressions a mix of confusion and regret. I had made my point. But I also knew that the road ahead would be long and painful. The public humiliation was just one step in a much larger journey, and I was determined to see it through. As I walked away, I felt a sense of empowerment wash over me. I had taken a stand, and I was ready to reclaim my life, no matter the cost. The trap had been set, and now it was time for Monica to face the consequences of her choices. I was ready for the battle ahead, and I wouldn't back down. The drive home was a blur of emotions. I could barely focus on the road as my mind raced with thoughts of what had just transpired. The confrontation at the university had been explosive, and I could still feel the weight of the crowd's gaze on me. Every whisper, every shocked expression, replayed in my mind like a broken record. I had exposed Monica, but I had also exposed myself, and the reality of that was beginning to sink in. As I pulled into the driveway, I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. The house we had built together felt heavy with memories, a mix of love and betrayal that seemed to linger in the air. I parked the car and sat there for a moment, staring at the front door. I knew that once I stepped inside, there would be no turning back. The confrontation had opened a Pandora's box of emotions, and I was about to face the fallout. I finally gathered the courage to step out of the car and walk toward the front door. My hand trembled slightly as I reached for the doorknob, and I hesitated for a moment. What would I say to Monica? How would I even begin to address the chaos that had erupted between us? I took a deep breath, steeling myself for whatever awaited me on the other side. As I opened the door, the familiar scent of our home enveloped me, but it felt different now, tainted. I stepped inside, and the silence was deafening. I could hear my heartbeat echoing in the stillness, a reminder of the storm that had just passed. I called out for Monica, but there was no response. The house felt empty, and I couldn't shake the feeling that everything had changed. I made my way to the living room, where I found Monica sitting on the couch, her face buried in her hands. The sight of her brought a wave of conflicting emotions crashing over me: anger, sadness, and a flicker of sympathy. She looked up as I entered, her eyes red and puffy from crying. "Jeff," she said softly, her voice trembling. "I'm so sorry." I crossed my arms, my heart hardening. "Sorry doesn't change what you did, Monica." "I know," she replied, her voice breaking. "I never meant for it to go this far. I was confused, and I made a terrible mistake. But I love you. I want to fix this." The words hung in the air, and I felt a mix of anger and sorrow. "Love isn't enough when you betray someone like this," I said, my voice steady but filled with pain. "You've shattered my trust, and I don't know if I can ever get that back." Monica looked down, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I understand if you're angry. I deserve it, but I need you to know that I never wanted to hurt you. I was just so lost." I took a deep breath, trying to process her words. "You were lost? So you decided to cheat on your husband?" The bitterness in my voice was unmistakable. "That's not an excuse, Monica. You had options. You could have talked to me. You could have sought help. Instead, you chose to betray me." "I know," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "And I regret it every single day. I never wanted to hurt you, Jeff. I thought it was just harmless flirting, but then it spiraled out of control. I didn't know how to stop it." The pain in her voice tugged at my heart, but I fought against it. I couldn't let my emotions cloud my judgment. "You think I can just forget about this? You think we can just go back to the way things were?" "I don't know," she admitted, her voice trembling. "But I want to try. I want to make this right. I'll do whatever it takes to earn back your trust." I shook my head, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. "You can't just say that, Monica. Trust isn't something that can be rebuilt overnight. It takes time, and right now, I don't know if I can even look at you without feeling betrayed." The silence that followed was heavy, filled with unspoken words. I could see the pain etched on her face. And for a moment, I felt a flicker of sympathy. But then I remembered the laughter she had shared with Lucas, the way she had looked at him, and the anger surged back. "I need space," I said finally, my voice firm. "I can't deal with this right now. I need time to think." Monica nodded, her expression a mixture of understanding and despair. "I get it. I'll give you space. But please, don't give up on us. I love you, Jeff." Her words hung in the air, and I felt a pang of sadness. I wanted to believe her. But the betrayal was too fresh, too raw. I turned and walked toward the bedroom, my heart heavy with the weight of what had just transpired. As I entered the room, I closed the door behind me and leaned against it, taking a moment to collect my thoughts. The walls felt like they were closing in on me, and I needed to breathe. I glanced around the room, taking in the memories that surrounded me. The photos of our wedding day, the little trinkets we had collected together, the bed we had shared. It all felt tainted now, a reminder of the trust that had been shattered. I sat on the edge of the bed, my mind racing. I had exposed Monica publicly, and while it had felt empowering at the moment, The aftermath was beginning to weigh heavily on me. I had put everything out there, and now I was left with the reality of what that meant. I had to confront my feelings, and I wasn't sure I was ready for that. As I sat there, I pulled out my phone and opened the gallery. I scrolled through the photos I had taken at the seminar. The images of Monica and Lucas laughing together. Each photo felt like a dagger to my heart, a reminder of the betrayal that had unfolded before my eyes. I had wanted proof, but now it felt like a burden. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was trapped in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I knew I had to make a decision. I could either continue down this path of anger and resentment, or I could try to find a way to heal. But healing would require work, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to put in that effort. The pain was still too fresh, and I felt like I was standing at a crossroads, unsure of which direction to take. After what felt like hours of contemplation, I decided to reach out to a close friend, someone who had been through a similar situation. I needed perspective, someone who could help me navigate the tumultuous waters I found myself in. I sent a quick text, asking if we could meet for coffee. I needed to talk, to vent, to figure out what my next steps should be. Within minutes, my phone buzzed with a response. Of course, let's meet at that cafe we love. I'll be there in 20. I felt a sense of relief wash over me. I needed to talk to someone who understood, someone who could help me process everything that had happened. I quickly changed my clothes, trying to shake off the heaviness that clung to me. I couldn't stay cooped up in the house, drowning in my thoughts. I needed to get out, to breathe, and to find clarity. As I drove to the cafe, I felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety. I knew my friend would have insights to share, but I also feared the conversation would force me to confront feelings I wasn't ready to face. I parked the car and took a deep breath before stepping inside. The familiar aroma of coffee and pastries enveloped me, a comforting reminder of happier times. I spotted my friend, Sarah, sitting at a corner table, her expression warm and inviting. She waved as I approached, and I felt a flicker of gratitude for her presence. "Hey, you," she said, pulling me into a hug. "I'm so glad you reached out. You look like you've been through the ringer." "Yeah, it's been a rough few days," I admitted, taking a seat across from her. "I don't even know where to start. Why don't you just tell me what happened?" she suggested, her tone encouraging. I took a deep breath and began to recount the events of the past week. The discovery of Monica's affair, the confrontation at the seminar, and the public humiliation that followed. As I spoke, I could see the concern etched on Sarah's face, and it felt good to finally let it all out. "I can't believe she would do something like that," Sarah said, shaking her head. "You deserve so much better." "I know," I replied, the weight of her words resonating with me. "But it's hard to see it that way right now. I feel so betrayed, and I don't know how to move forward." "Have you thought about what you want?" she asked gently. "Do you want to try to work things out with her, or are you ready to walk away?" I paused, contemplating her question. "I don't know," I admitted. "Part of me wants to give her a chance to make things right, but another part of me feels like I can never trust her again. It's like I'm stuck in this limbo, and I don't know how to get out." Sarah nodded, her expression understanding. "It's completely normal to feel that way. Trust takes time to rebuild, and it's okay to take your time with this decision. You don't have to rush into anything." As we continued to talk, I felt a sense of clarity beginning to emerge. I realized that I didn't have to have all the answers right away. I could take my time to process my feelings, to figure out what I truly wanted. The road ahead would be difficult, but I didn't have to face it alone. After a few hours of conversation, I felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I knew that I still had a long way to go, but at least I had a clearer path ahead. I thanked Sarah for her support, feeling grateful to have someone who understood what I was going through. As I drove home, I felt a renewed sense of determination. I didn't know what the future held for me and Monica, but I was ready to face it head on. I had taken the first step in reclaiming my life, and I was ready to continue down that path, no matter how challenging it might be. When I arrived home, I found Monica waiting for me in the living room, her expression a mixture of hope and fear. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the conversation that lay ahead. I knew that we needed to talk, to confront the reality of our situation. "Hey," I said softly, my voice steady. "We need to have a serious conversation." Monica nodded, her eyes filled with tears. "I know. I'm ready to talk. I just hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me." As I sat down across from her, I knew that this was just the beginning of a long and painful journey. But I was ready to face whatever came next. The aftermath of betrayal was never easy, but I was determined to find a way to heal, whether that meant rebuilding our relationship or moving on. The choice was mine, and I was ready to take control of my destiny. The conversation with Monica was long, emotional, and at times, uncomfortable. We sat across from each other in the living room, the air thick with tension and unspoken words. I could see the remorse in her eyes, and the way she wrung her hands nervously as she tried to find the right words to express how she felt. But I also felt a wall of anger and betrayal that had built up inside me, a barrier that made it difficult to hear her out. As she spoke, her voice trembling, she recounted the events that had led to her affair with Lucas. She talked about the loneliness she had felt, the way she had drifted apart from me without realizing it. She admitted that she had turned to Lucas for comfort, for a sense of excitement that she felt was missing from our relationship. But she also made it clear that she never intended for it to go as far as it did, that the moment she realized she had crossed a line, she had tried to end it. "I know what I did was wrong," she said, her eyes glistening with tears. "I betrayed your trust, and I betrayed our marriage. And I'm so sorry, Jeff. I never wanted to hurt you like this." I listened intently, my mind racing with a million thoughts and emotions. Part of me wanted to lash out, to tell her that sorry wasn't enough, that she had shattered something between us that could never be repaired. But another part of me, a part that I had buried deep down, yearned for understanding. For a chance to heal. "Why didn't you come to me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "If you were feeling lost, if you were struggling, why didn't you talk to me about it?" Monica shook her head, a rueful smile playing on her lips. "I don't know, Jeff. I guess I was scared. I was afraid that if I opened up, you wouldn't understand, that you wouldn't be able to help me. And I was ashamed, too. I didn't want you to think I was weak, or that I was giving up on us." I nodded, understanding dawning on me. It was a fear I recognized, one that I had grappled with myself in the past. We had always prided ourselves on being a strong, resilient couple, but maybe that had made it harder for us to be vulnerable with each other when things got tough. "I want you to know that I love you," Monica said, her voice trembling. "I never stopped loving you, even when I was with Lucas. He was a mistake, a momentary lapse in judgment. But you, Jeff, you're the one I want to be with. You're the one I choose. Every single day." Her words hung in the air, and I felt a lump form in my throat. I wanted to believe her, to let myself be swept up in the emotion of the moment. But the memory of her laughter with Lucas, the way they had looked at each other, was still seared into my mind. It would take time to heal, time to rebuild the trust that had been shattered. "I want to believe you, Monica," I said, my voice heavy with emotion. "But it's going to take time. I need you to understand that. This isn't something that can be fixed overnight." Monica nodded, her expression solemn. "I know, Jeff, and I'm willing to put in the work, to do whatever it takes to earn back your trust. I know it won't be easy, but I'm committed to making this right." We talked for hours, delving into the depths of our relationship, exploring the cracks and fissures that had allowed the betrayal to take root. We talked about communication, about the importance of being vulnerable with each other, even when it was hard. We talked about the future, about what we both wanted and needed to move forward. In the end, we decided to give our marriage another chance. It wasn't an easy decision, and it wasn't one that we made lightly. We knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult and that there would be setbacks and challenges along the way. But we also knew that we loved each other, that we had built something special together, and that it was worth fighting for. Over the next few months, we worked tirelessly to rebuild our relationship. We went to counseling, both individually and as a couple, to work through the pain and the anger. We communicated openly and honestly, even when it was uncomfortable. We made a conscious effort to reconnect, to rediscover the things that had brought us together in the first place. It wasn't always easy. There were moments when the pain felt too raw, when the betrayal seemed too much to bear. But we pushed through, determined to find our way back to each other. And slowly, over time, we began to heal. The trust that had been shattered began to mend. And we found ourselves falling in love all over again. Looking back now, I can see how the betrayal changed us, how it forced us to confront the weaknesses in our relationship and to work to strengthen them. We learned to communicate better and to be more open and honest with each other. We learned to appreciate the little things, the moments of joy and connection that made our marriage special. And while the scars of the betrayal will always be with us, they have become a reminder of how strong we are. And how resilient our love can be. We know that we can weather any storm, as long as we face it together. And that knowledge, that unshakable belief in each other, is what keeps us going, even on the darkest of days. So, as I look to the future, I feel hopeful. I know that there will always be challenges and obstacles to overcome. But I also know that I have Monica by my side and that we are in this together, for better or for worse. And that, to me, is the greatest gift of all.